Okay, ladies, we're back with our second project. I have my lovely model, Lisa, in with me again. I'm going to be showing you how to do a little bit more bold of a makeup. This will be focused on the eye and brow area, and this is going to be more of a nighttime look. So you saw our first look that was very natural with her, and now we're gonna bump it up. So we're going to do things in a little bit different of an order, but we're going to start off with all of our items set up in the order in which we're going to use them, like we have in the past, so that way it's seamless going right through. So we're actually going to start off today with the eyes. Reason being is when you use dark shadows, sometimes if you don't tap off the brush, you will get a little bit of fallout on the skin. And this can be a little bit difficult to get off of finished foundation. So we're going to start off with the eyes. So as we've talked about before, primer is the most important part, so we're going to start with that. Now that we've primed her eyelids, one thing that you need to think about is it does have a little bit of oil in it, primer does. So you need to go over the primer and set it with a base color first. So we're going to take a very neutral color just to put the powder over it so that way everything has longevity, it stays a little bit better. That and it doesn't pick up too much pigment when you're using darker shadows, thus making it a little bit more difficult to blend. So we're going to put a natural color all over the eye. So for my model here, she's got beautiful dark eyes and she's more on the olive side of things. So we're actually going to go with an olive color on the lid. The reason that I'm going with a lighter color on her eyelid is because she's got a little eyelid space. So I don't want to put anything too dark on her immediate eyelid, otherwise it's going to recess her eye. So we're going to do a lighter on the lid itself, and then in the corner we're going to make it darker. So we'll start with that olive color. Using a flat shadow brush, I'm pressing it into the center of the eye, and I'm making sure that I tap off the brush before I do so, so that way I don't have any excess product falling onto her skin. Now that I've finished putting that on, I'm going to use a pencil brush such as this here. And we've talked about these brushes before. These are to apply a direct amount of color. So we're going to use this to apply it to her crease and the outer corner of her eye. And we're going to follow the eye socket here and the little V shape that's created by the corner of the eye and the eye socket. Okay, so you can notice as I go that I'm just piling it on there, and that's because I really want to have a punch with color. So you can see fallout, that's great. We are doing that for the reason because we're going to clean that up before we put on any foundation. So right now I have it completely unblended, but one thing that I'd like to point out is I drug that color in towards the lighter color because we don't want to have two distinct bands of color. We want to really start blending this down because you need to have a little bit of darkness to the lid in a smoky eye look, otherwise it can look a little bit unbalanced. So now that we have that, we're going to take a soft brush and blend out our edges, and then we're going to go back in and put more color. Using circular motions to buff out the shadow, this is how we make sure that it's really blended from the top. But you can see what happens once we blend it out is it loses a lot of its pigmentation. So you want to go through, blend it out at the top, and then you go through and put in a little bit more color where you want to see the definition. So for her, we want to see it on that outer corner. So we're just going to go put color there directly. And we're going to go with a dark brown black color. Okay, so we've really amped up the color in the corners of the eyes, and we haven't blended it out yet, so instead of having a bare brush this time, we're going to have a little bit of pigment because we don't want to completely get rid of our darkness on the corner, so have a small amount of pigment on your brush and blend out your edges. You can layer your eyeshadows so that way it has a little bit more intensity. Right now we're going to keep this a little bit soft. Because this is a nighttime look, we're going to give her a little bit more of a defined brow than we did last time. Last time we filled in with soft powdery shadows. This time we're going to use liner, and we're going to start off with a matching brown liner. So we've got a dark brown liner to match our eyebrows, and we're going to define underneath the eyebrow where you would naturally see a shadow. Now that we've got that a little bit more defined, we're going to blend it out with an angle brush. Now that we've defined the arch of the brow a little bit more, we're going to fill in the gaps the same way that we did before with the shadows. So we're going to use a dark brown and fill in the gaps. And as you can see, I extended her eyebrow out a little bit so that way we have a little bit more of a dramatic look. So we filled in her brows, and as you can see, we stayed away from defining the top too much. We want to keep that soft so that way it looks natural and it doesn't look like you've painted on your eyebrows. We also keep it very soft in the inner corner of the eye. But as you can see, she has a little bit more hair on this side that comes in than on this side, as with a lot of people. So one trick that I'd like to show you is you can draw in individual hairs. We're going to use cake liner, which is a water-activated eyeliner, and we're going to paint on the individual hairs. So we're going to do that at the center of the brow. Okay, we are finished with our eyebrows. We have got them all penciled in and everything, and we're going to define them a little bit more with concealer once we go into the foundation on the skin. So we're going to finish off the eye. And the thing you need to go out is some nice lashes, right? But before you do that, you need to prep your lash line. So what we're going to do is we're going to line her lower line with that same cake liner that I talked about before, but we're going to smoke it out so that way we have a really soft effect, but it's very dark at the back, the line of the lashes, so that way everything blends together and you won't see her false lashes. So as you can see, the line's pretty distinct, and the reason that I did that is that way you can see the placement of the liner that I put on her. So what we're going to do is completely wet down our brush and glide it over the top until we see that it is completely blended out. Now that I'm finished with blending out that eyeliner, I'm just going back through with a fluffy brush and that plum color that I used before, and I'm just intensifying the eye a little bit because as we work with the eye, sometimes we can lose a little bit of pigment, so you keep building it up as you go. So we're going to pause on the eyes, we're going to go ahead and do the skin, and we're going to finish up with the eyes and lips last. So we're going to first clean up any fallout underneath the eyes, and we're going to go in with our concealer underneath the eyes, which we're going to use that same salmon color that we talked about to brighten it up, and then we're going to do an all-over foundation. I'm going to use a toner over her skin before I do anything, so that way I can make sure I'm starting with a very clean base, and we'll work off there. And of course, don't forget that when you are working with the face, you need to work with a primer. So I'm choosing a primer that's an oil control primer, and we're going to put it all over the skin, and we're going to do that before everything else. So using a soft, fluffy brush, we're going to go underneath the eye with a salmon-y colored concealer to brighten up that area. Look up for me. You can already really see the difference between, and one thing that I like to point out is you do need to hit this inner corner of the eye as well. We get a lot of darkness in the crepe underneath our eye here, but we sometimes forget about the little cavern that's created by the side of our nose. The higher the bridge of your nose, sometimes the more exaggerated this can be. You can see that on myself. So you just want to make sure that you really hit that corner and bring the brightness into your eyes, even though we have a dark, smoky look. This is going to make the difference between a clean look and a sloppy look, and this is going to be the finishing to it. In the last video, I showed you how to do your foundation first and conceal after. We're going to stick with that same thing so that way we don't have any loss of our concealer. So we're going to go through with a nice liquid foundation, and then we're going to go in with the concealer. So we've got a foundation on her, and as you can see, it has a little bit of shine as it's sitting on her skin. So if we don't set that, it's going to slide on the skin later, and it's not going to hold its coverage. So we're going to set it with a loose powder and a powder puff, and we're going to rock it onto the skin so that way it really sets the makeup. I've talked about this before, but with my more mature skin, sophisticated ladies out there, you don't want to over powder because this can sit in the fine lines and it can make your skin look dry. And as we age, because our skin is a little bit more dry, this is something we really need to avoid. I've got her all set in her foundation, and I'm going to go through with a little bit of concealer on a dome brush, and I'm using a very, very small amount because we need to be able to blend it into what we already have. Foundation covered most of it, actually. To give a little bit of life to her skin and make sure that it's not too monochromatic, it's not too flat, we're going to use a highlighter that is a cream highlighter that has a little bit of gold tint to it. And I put a little tad bit of shimmer in it so that way we can pop it on the cheekbones itself, because this is a night makeup, so that way we can really play it up a bit. So now we're going to back up and we're going to go finish the eyes. So we've got our liner on and we're just going to go in with lashes. And I'm going to use corner lashes for her so that way it doesn't get too heavy and create too much shadow on the eye. So just at the outer corners. We've reached my model's favorite part. We're going to do the underlining that I talked about Some people call it tight lining, and that's where you take a waterproof black liner and you go underneath the top eyelashes, because as you can see, the lashes look great, but there's still a little bit of lightness to the natural skin underneath. So we need to fill that in so that way it looks really, really bold at the lash line. This is going to give a filled-in appearance and the appearance that you have really, really dark eyelashes. So that's when we're going to underline, and she's going to dread the entire thing. So she's got a great eye that we can do a lot of work with her. You know, she can hold a lot of eyeshadow. And one great thing about having dark eyes, and not to say that light eyes can't do this, because I do it all the time, but we are going to take that black liner underneath. This is more of a nighttime look. I wouldn't suggest it for daytime for everybody. Some people, if you like it, it's all about opinion. It's all objective. So this is just an idea for you. So we're going to go right on the waterline underneath the eye. As you can see, that added a lot of flare to the eye. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the outer corner of the eye with a little bit of eyeshadow that we used in this crease. So that way it really blends in with the liner and you don't have too stark of a contrast between the liner and the shadow. We're going to go back in with our cake liner that we had before to blend in the lash line, so that way you don't see the band